Hello there. If you've received a link for this video, then you have qualified for my Stamp of the Month bonus kit. And this is the video instructions. So you should have received a small written guide with a link to this video, a link to the Cricut Design Space file, and a list of instructions as well as full color photos of each card. So we're going to go through the process of putting together these cards. So you will have two cards that look like this, and you will have your Stamp of the Month bonus kit unless you're creating your own. Inside the Stamp of the Month bonus kit, you will have all of the cardstock pieces, the loose sequins, and all of the pieces needed to create this except for the techniques that we're going to be using on that. So you'll be using your own inks. We're going to create some faux wood grain paper first. So there are two cards of this style, and it is a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 mink cardstock piece for the base. We're going to score it at 1/2, and then 1 inch, another 1/2, and then 1 inch, and then another 1/2. We're going to flip it over on the other side, and we're going to ink that piece with mink ink, and then we're going to come over the top of it again with toffee ink. We're going to create a faux wood grain, and you're going to do this twice because there's two cards of this style, so you should have two mink 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch pieces, and it's easier for me to just pull out the pieces that are needed and duplicate those steps rather than pulling it in a separate time. I'm only creating one on camera, but you will just repeat your performance for the second one. The only difference in the first card and the second card is the small strips that you're going to add to the card. On one of the cards, it's sage, and on one of the cards, it's glacier. They're glacier. But otherwise, all of the steps are identical. So we'll just be creating two pieces just like what we're creating now. Sorry, my hair is in the way. I promise it gets better. And then we're going to come back in with toffee ink over the top, and we're just creating a wood grain background. And it just creates a really fun, nice background for the card. So thank you so much, everyone, for earning the Stamp of the Month bonus kit. You may be watching this video because you've earned this guide through one of my downline makers. And so you may not be a Snips by Kelly paper crafter. You may be one of my downline members who's earned this guide. So welcome, welcome to you as well. Everyone welcome who has earned this guide and or the Stamp of the Month kit. Okay, if you are creating from scratch, this is 3 1/2 by 4 1/4, and it's white daisy. Then we have two glacier pieces that are 1 by 4 1/4. We'll also have two of those 3 1/2 by 4 1/4 inch for the second card, so one for the first card and one for the second card. We'll have a 1 by 4 1/4, 2 in glacier and 2 in sage. We're just putting together the glacier, and we're just going to tear strips. If you want the white core to show, you'll tear toward yourself. If you don't want the white core to show, you'll tear away from yourself. Okay, so once we have that done, you can probably go ahead and tear your sage strips as well, so that you're ready to go with card number 2 off camera. So for the 3 1/2 by 4 1/4 inch pieces, we're going to stamp the large scene on that with intense black, and we're just going to center it. So you can actually do two of these because there's two of these cards. I'm just doing one on camera, and we're just going to stamp that in the center. I have my foam mat underneath, and we're going to stamp two of those. Okay. Then we're going to grab something to cut a 3-inch circle or close to it if you don't have 3 inches. I'm using the 3-inch circle from our circle shaker window, thin cuts, just because it's an easy go-to. I have an old Martha Stewart 3-inch punch I could use. There's our other ones from our regular circle thin cuts as well. So if it's 2 3/4 or if it's, you know, a little smaller, that's fine too. We're going to leave the background that we cut the circle out of. We're going to leave that black and white. We're going to watercolor the interior circle. So while you have your watercolors out, you're going to be creating all of your scenes with the same colors and in the same style. So all 5 cards that have coloring on them, you're going to use the same method of coloring each one. So once you have them out, if you would like to wait and do all of your pieces at the same time, you totally can. So the first thing I'm going to do is squeeze a little glacier ink into the lid, and then I'm going to color the stream in glacier. Then I'm going to come back and add a little water to the sage after cleaning my brush and color the grassy areas in watercolor sage. Then I'm going to come back in and I'm going to color the trees and the leaves in watercolor Sundance. Then I'm going to come back in and color the bench and the bridge in watercolor toffee. It's a super easy technique to use, and you simply squeeze the ink to your lid and add a little bit of water, and in between colors, make sure that you wash your brush. I'm using a medium water brush. You can use any paintbrush that you wish. You could use the small water brush, so you can use whatever you happen to have, and it's just a really quick and easy and fast coloring technique. So you're going to go ahead and color this circle and the second circle for the second card that is the same pattern, and we're actually going to color the other scenes that we create with the other cards in exactly the same manner. So we don't have to repeat that and repeat the directions for those, because you're actually going to just use the same techniques. If there's a lot of water left in my lid, I will wipe it with a paper towel and completely clean it out. If it's pretty dried up, I will just simply flip it over and put it right back on my stamp pad, but I don't want excess water in my stamp pad. Another thing, if you are a re-inker user, rather than squishing the stamp pad into the lid, you could simply add a little tiny bit of re-inker to your lid and add the water to it that way, or you could simply make a re-inker puddle on your Versamat as well. Whether you use your stamp pad this way or whether you use your re-inker, they both turn out the same. And however much water you add, you don't want so much water that your paper gets soggy and wet, but it will get a little wet and you will have to let it dry a little bit. But the least amount of water you add, the darker your color will be, and it will lighten up a little bit after you color it as well. I like to just get all of the coloring done at once if possible, and then I don't have to get all of the pieces out again. So now I'm adding the sentiment to this one. I believe in the sample in my base kit, only one of them has a sentiment on it, on the circle, but you can add another sentiment to the other circle, or you can leave it off how I did in the example if you want to. I do have 2 espresso Cricut fences, and if you're creating those on your own, the Cricut Design Space link is included. The 3 colors are White Daisy, Espresso, and Toffee for the Cricut pieces. I'm simply adding some cloud stamps in Glacier to the top. I have lost my small cloud, so I'm actually just using the large cloud in different positions. But on my master, I did large and small clouds. Darn it, I hate it when I do that. I have looked all over, and I usually put it right back on my carrier sheet, and it came off for some reason. So now what you're going to do for these 2 cards, when you have enough pieces for your 2 cards, we're just doing one on camera, is you're going to add your Glacier torn piece up toward the top of our faux wood grain piece that we created. Then you're going to add your 3.5 inch by 4 1/4 inch cut out circle piece to that. And you're not going to press it all the way down on the bottom because we're going to slide that other piece there. And so we're going to slide the other glacier piece for the second card. Of course, it's sage pieces. I'm going to slide that under. Okay. Then we're going to add foam tape to the back of the circle. Trim the sides if you need to of the base of the card. Then we're going to add foam tape to the circle and pop that up on the circle area there. And it's on purpose that the background is black and white and the circle is colored, because it's supposed to look like that colored circle is popping up and give it a nice, different, unique look. And it's supposed to be a contrast to the black and white in the back. Then you can add the cricket fences, and we're going to trim those off. And I purposely add one higher and one lower on the left and the right sides. You can even them up if you prefer that, but I liked having them uneven. So you're going to add that and trim that off on both sides. Once we've completed that step, we can actually add the base to the card, and that is cards 1 and 2. Okay, and we're going to add some loose sequins, and I have just grabbed loose sequins from my stash from our old color of the year that is escaping me, that I cannot think of the color of it, but I've added those because those seem to coordinate as long as I use the ones that weren't very bright. They seem to mesh well with the glacier and the sage. Now I'm going to add that to the card base. Got a little extra piece here. And then add the loose sequins, and we are done with cards 1 and cards 2. Super easy. And I'm adding a tiny micro glue dot to each sequin, and that's how I'm adding mine to my card. You can use liquid glass, you can use liquid Tombow glue, you can use any glue that you wish. I'm just opting to add a tiny micro dot to that, and I like doing that. Okay, almost there. Put them wherever you like, and then I love that faux wood grain look. That makes it feel like we have yet another pattern paper, and it is great. Now you will have 2 of those, and the only variation is one has sage strips and one has glacier strips. Okay, cards 3 and 4. We're going to pull out the pieces for cards 3 and 4. You will have a glacier base 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 and a sage base 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 for the second card. You will have 2 white daisy 4 by 5 1/4. You will have 2 3-inch circles. You will have 2 fence pieces for each card, so 4 total. And then a couple little cricket grass pieces. There will be 2 of them, and we're going to cut them in half. So the first thing that we're going to do is use the back side of our all-purpose mat, or our Versa mat, and cover with our all-purpose mat. And we're actually going to do a paint stamp pad wash on the background, and the colors are going to be glacier, sage, and Sundance. I'm going to use a wide water brush, and I'm going to again put the ink into the lid, add a little water, Start with Glacier at the top and do about 4 strokes from the top of across of Glacier, about 4 strokes of Sage with the wide brush, and about 4 strokes of Sundance with the wide brush. Now in this particular video, I don't get my Sundance dark enough, and it ends up almost looking like honey butter. So I actually got a little too much water, and it isn't as dark as the master. So you can make your wash as light or as dark as you want. So I'm doing about 4 brush strokes across. Doesn't need to be perfectly even, doesn't need to be perfectly straight. You're just washing that color on the base. We're going to do this for both bases. I'm only doing one base on camera, and you can do the other base off camera. The cards are identical except for sentiment and except for the base piece where one is Glacier and one is Sage. So now I'm doing a Sage wash, about 4 strokes of the Sage wash, and now I'm doing about 4 strokes of the Sundance wash. Gonna put that aside and let that dry, and I believe in the video I didn't quite let it dry long enough before I stamped the sentiment, and so the sentiment was a little washed out and not as vibrant. So you can see how I added too much water to the Sundance and it looks more like honey butter. I do go back in to try to make it a little darker, but it still isn't as dark as the master. It does help just a touch to darken that up a little bit because I do like the vibrant Sundance color, but I like the honey butter color as well. So you can practice on scrap paper and get the tone that you want it to be. Next, we're going to grab the 3-inch circle and we're going to stamp the scenery onto the 3-inch circle again in intense black. I created my 3-inch circles on the Cricut, but you can use a 3-inch circle punch, a 3-inch thin cut, or whatever you might like. And they're part of the Design Space link that is in the instruction guide. So it should cut all together. I'm just going to center that. And I'm going to do the watercolor wash on this in the exact way as we did the first watercolor wash. Same colors. So the stream is still going to be the Glacier wash. The trees are still going to be a Sundance wash. The grass areas are going to be a Sage wash, and the benches are going to be a Toffee wash. Same exact way. Do both of your circles this way. And then on the final card, all of the coloring is going to be identical as well. Such a fast and easy way to color, and it just looks like art when you watercolor art when you pull it all together. You can do heavier or lighter. I find that when I barely touch and barely do strokes, and when I have it wet enough, it just does a nice wash all the way over. If I don't have quite enough water or I have too much water is when I have trouble. So if I don't have quite enough water, it's too dark and too thick and it doesn't spread as easy. And if I have too much water, it just kind of soaks up and washes out. So you can kind of experiment with that, and you'll just kind of get to the point where you get better and better, and it's exactly the way that you want it. So now I'm coming in with the Glacier, and I'm doing the stream. I think that's what I'm doing, or am I doing the green? Yep, I'm doing the stream. I love that this is a fast technique. It seems like so many of our stamps have to be colored these days, and so we spend a lot of time coloring, and this is just a wonderful, fast and easy way to do that. I I am experimenting with video instructions where I'm giving an abbreviated instruction sheet with a link to a video for my Stamp of the Month kits. And I'm really hoping it takes off, because by doing it this way, I will be able to have the instruction guides done almost immediately when I get my creating done, instead of a month or two later. Because it's just so much faster. I can do a process video in a half an hour or so, instead of having to pull everything out and create an instruction guide. So if this takes off and it's working well for everyone, I would love to be able to do my Stamp of the Month bonus kit guides this way. I think it adds extra teaching. You get to actually see them put together instead of just reading about them being put together. And I think it will be a great way to do Stamp of the Month instructions and get them out faster every month, and take those off my plate to be able to get other guides completed in a more timely manner. So I would love your input on this, since this is the first one. Last month we did the layout for the Bee's Knees Stamp of the Month on YouTube. I did the full process video on YouTube, but I didn't really do it in the form of an instruction guide. So I will probably follow up with an instruction guide with that link in it for last month's, and then the months before I don't even have done. And it's a super simple one. I think you can see how to do it, but it's making me feel bad to get so backlogged on guides. So I'm really hoping that this is going to be a great compromise. Okay, so what we've done here now is I'm adding that sentiment. I did not wait until it was completely dry, so the sentiment is a little light. So you may want to wait till it's a little more dry before you do that. Next, we're going to take that circle and we're going to cut it in 1/2 inch bits. So I'm going to cut 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch till I'm all the way to the end, and I can't cut 1/2 inch bits anymore. So I'm turning it to the side, and I'm going to cut a 1/2 inch and another 1/2 inch and another, and another, and then we're going to pop all of these 1/2 inch bits up with foam tape and add them back onto the card with a tiny space in between. It's a really cute technique to just give different ideas. So sometimes with scenery stamps, you need ideas that don't all look the same, and just it would be beautiful just to stamp the scenery stamp on your cardstock and call it good. But this gives 3 different ideas on what you can do with those scenery stamps that make the cards a little bit different from each other, and have 3 different inspiring ideas to be able to take off from there and make your own scenery cards. Now we're just adding our washed piece to our glacier base and adding that to our card base. Now I've added foam tape to the bits and we're putting the puzzle together. I'm going to start with the bottom piece and work upward until the full circle is all put together. Just putting them together here. It's kind of a fun look. And then we're going to add a couple cricket bits. So we're going to add a fence again on the left and the right. And then we're going to snip apart the toffee grass and add a little tuft of grass, or a little mound of grass, to the left and to the right. And you can see the difference, how much lighter my Sundance is on the right card than the left. So you can adjust your color accordingly. Okay, I've purposely not put them even. I've purposely toggled them in different spots, one low and one high. And then I will trim off that. I hope that I added the cloud stamp. I can't remember if I did. I hope I didn't skip that step, but I added the little clouds up at the top of the white daisy piece. I'm drawing a blank here. Can't remember if we did that at the beginning here or not. If we did not, it's Glacier ink. And just a few clouds up at the top. And now I'm going to turn this over and trim off the fence. Sometimes you only need just a little tiny bit. Okay, now adding those little toffee bits in there, added a little interest, and now all we have left is to add the sequins. So depending on the stamp that you put on the bottom, both cards were made the same. So now we have 4 cards that will be complete after this, and we have just one left. I'm just going to add my sequins. I wish as I'm sitting here, I so wish I could think of that color of the year. I did not think that I would ever forget it. It can't be julep, can it? Julep loose sequins. I feel like it's not julep, but it's not Seabrook, julep. Oh, it's driving me crazy, you guys. I've never had so much trouble remembering colors. Could be julep loose sequins. Okay, our last card, easy peasy. Yay, hooray, we're getting there. Our last card, we will have a glacier base that is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. We will have a flip out glacier piece that is going to be 2 1/2 by 11 scored at 5 1/2 in the center. 2 1/2 by 11 scored at 5 1/2. Then we'll have a white daisy interior piece that is 4 by 5 1/4. And we'll have 2 white daisy pieces that will go on the flip out piece that are 2 1/4 by 5 1/4 each. Okay, so this first piece we're going to put on the Versamat. I don't know why I have that white daisy piece on there. We're going to put it on the Versamat. And even though this is for the bottom of the card, it's just easier for me to measure at the top. We're going to go 1 1/2 inches down, and I'm going to draw a light line. We're going to do the same thing, 1 1/2 inches down, and I'm going to draw a light line on the skinnier piece. Flip those over because I actually needed that 1 1/2 inches from the bottom. It was just easier for me to measure from the top. That's showing us where we're going to stamp the scene. So the scene is going to line up, the bottom of the scene is going to line up at that pencil mark on both pieces. So I'm going to grab the intense black ink, and I'm going to stamp, center that stamp, and I'm really going to be careful. I'm going to wipe around the stamp because I'm stamping on the base. It's not going to get cut apart, and the bottom of the creek and the bottom of that stamp is going to touch our pencil line. And then that pencil line is going to be covered up on that one, and we can erase the pencil line on the second piece. So on the 2 1/4 by 5 1/4 inch piece of white daisy, I'm just lining up the center of that stamp in that pencil lined spot. Later, I will wipe the pencil mark away or erase the pencil mark. Now we know that those two scenes will line up when we add those together because we measured those and they'll line up when we add those two together. So now we're going to color those scenes in the same way, exact same way as we colored the other. The center doesn't need to be colored on the larger piece. I started to color it and then forgot it didn't need to be colored. And now we'll do the interior piece, which is also 2 1/4 by 5 1/4. And I wanted to use this long sentiment that's so beautiful. And we're going to do a little bit of watercolor treatment on that as well. And then I decided to add the lone tree. If you don't like adding anything there and you want to be able to add your words there, you can. You'll also have some inside space inside the card to add your own personalized words. So I'm going to take the Sundance again and do the water wash on that tree, sage wash on the grassy mound below the tree, and then a little glacier wash on the cursive words in the sentiment, the larger, bolder cursive words in the sentiment for added interest. Just a little bit on the bottom to add that extra color. And then the glacier wash. There's still a little glacier wash left. Okay. And I'm just going over the bolder cursive words for added interest there. And now when that all dries, we are able to pull the card together. So now we have the glacier base, the interior piece. We're going to add that exterior piece to the top of the flap that we created. So again, the flap is 2 1/2 by 11, scored at 5 1/2. And the interior and exterior white pieces 2 1/4 by 5 1/4. And we can add those to the flap. Next, we're going to add the white or the glacier base to the card base. And then we'll add our stamped and watercolor ink pad painted piece to that. And then we can add our interactive element down the center and line up the pieces. So easy, and yet a nice, fun, different element. Gives us a little added interest to that card and gives us a third scenery pattern. So with this kit, we have 3 scenery ideas for a scenery card. And I hope that that's useful and that you like that. And now we're going to add our sequins. And once we add our sequins, we have all 5 cards. Thank you so much for earning the Stamp of the Month bonus kit, whether you're cutting your own or whether you've earned my physical kit. I'd love to hear from you. I really hope that the video instructions are helpful, and because they're faster to get out to all of you, I hope they help you get your cards done faster. And I would love to hear from you as I move forward, because this may be a great method to solve the problem of not being able to get the guides done as timely. It may help us do that. So give me your input. And you can be honest if it's not a method that you like, but I hope in combination between the written cheat sheet and this link to this video, you'll be able to get your cards done faster and get a little added teaching on top of it, and that it will be something that works out great for all of you and something that works out great for me as well to get caught up on guides. There's only so much time in the day, and I can take all the help I can get to get caught up and keep you all creating. There we are. Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks so much for earning your kit, and enjoy. I can't wait to see your finished cards. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Bye-bye.